Hi, I'm Sohani, and today we'll be talking about Atomic Habits by James Clear. So let's get started. It starts off by a baseball injury, and James is terribly injured. In which what happens is, in a nutshell, what happens is that the his friend just moves his baseball bat, and it just drops out of his hand, and it hits James. And because of that, it's a bad injury. His eye pops out, his face structure just changes. He isn't able to speak, comprehend, and he's on the ventilator. I suppose he's very critical in that system. And he talks about a very dark past because his sister had also gone through a similar kind of event in which she had, I suppose, uh, tuberculosis, right? She had tuberculosis, so that was a horrifying period of his life. After that, when he starts to recover a bit, then he has no choice but to start over everything, right? By starting over means how to walk, how to speak, how to understand, how to see, and all of that. And obviously, in the state where he wasn't capable of doing it in a quick manner. So the only option he was left with was to go very slow. And that is exactly what he did, because I suppose the kind of mindset that he has had is to move in the right direction no matter what your speed is. So he worked upon himself, making small changes on an everyday basis. And also he was a top class baseball player. So this kind of engineering, I suppose this injury happened to him when he was in his sophomore stage of college, and he was at Denison University, which is, if you do not know, it's a very good school. So he got over there, and he wasn't very happy because he was, at the end of the day, he was very injured. But like, I mean to say that he was happy, but he was injured. He made small amendments, and in a period of, I suppose, a year or two, it actually was visible in his work, in his grades. He was a straight A student. He was amongst the straight A students, and he was doing exceptionally well in baseball, and he was offered some scholarships as well, which was like many applicants but only few seats, or someone there was just a very particular selection criteria, and he was able to meet that even after that terrible injury. So yeah. Furthermore, he talks about an anecdote that happened, a very long anecdote in a nutshell. It talks about fundamentals, right? What fundamentals he defines by a team of cyclists was losing for decades and decades until they switched their coach. The new coach made very small amendments. For example, the type of pillow for better sleep, or the type of diet that could help in better recovery, or the cushioning of seats, etc. etc. Very small changes. Perhaps insignificant for people like us who aren't very well versed with the kind of cycling arena has. What cycling arenas has to offer. These changes went for a while, and this had become habitual. And after 5 years, this very same team who was losing for decades and decades won 60% of the medals in Olympics, and then continuously won that particular tournament, perhaps was in the top three or whatever. But it had a tremendous change in itself. And why did that happen? Because it had made very small amendments. Now, the problem. The problem is that we overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the importance of value of making small improvements on a daily basis, which is true. And this is a sort of an equation that I just drafted. It says massive success is, is the accumulation of small habits. That means massive success is equals to small habits accumulated and not equals to massive action. Now, what does massive action mean? What does massive action lead to? Pressure. Okay. Now, the very famous idea of compound interest. If you become 1% better every day, you will be 37 times better well off per year. On the flip side, if you become 1% worse per day, you will be worse off at the end of the year, right? Sorry. Again, now this idea is really great. He's already posed very good examples. But yet, we aren't able to implement this because of a few problems. Again, problem. The problem is that you go to the gym for 3 days, you're still out of shape. This is the kind of mentality which we have. On the flip side, he suggests you eat healthy for 3 days and you are in a better health, right? But on the contrary, we can say that, okay, you eat healthy for 3 days, but scale doesn't move much. Scale weighing machine, right? So, what can be the solution? This is elaborated by another example, which says, you see the result after crossing a critical threshold. Critical threshold means simply a limit. Months, it can be weeks, months, years, whatever. For example, you have an ice and you have a temperature controller. I do not know what do you call that. And as you increase the temperature 1 degree by 1 degree over a smaller metric than that, and you cannot see any change in the ice. You do that constantly, and what you realize is at one point the ice starts to melt very quickly, right? Or for that matter, we have an example of bamboo, right? Now, what happens is when we're talking about bamboo tree, when we sow it in the soil, no change is visible for a 5 year period, right? And as soon as the 5 month period threshold crosses, in few months it shoots up to 90 feet. Now, you might want to ask what was happening when it was just a plant. Why didn't it shot up early? The reason was because simply it was just spreading its roots and becoming more strong, which makes a lot of sense. So, to sum up, success is equals to daily habits accumulated and is certainly not equal to once in a lifetime transformations. Now, if you're here, you have reached to the end of the video, and thank you so much for listening this so patiently. If you want some more videos, I will be happy to help you. Goodbye.